All right, so like I mentioned, this is the Master's of Science in Psychology program overview here at Palo Alto University. So first, I wanted to discuss who should consider the online Master's in Psychology program. And so there is many reasons why you should consider it, but one of the more common reasons is individuals that are seeking a career change to the mental health field, or also individuals seeking to learn more about psychology. And a lot of jobs in the market right now are sort of seeking out individuals that, can discuss and work with those when it comes to the mental health or psychology or working with different types of people. And the second reason would be individuals that want to specialize in their expertise, as well as acquiring more knowledge and advanced skills. And also those that are maybe considering wanting to get a PhD or a PsyD in the future, they would want to pursue higher education. So this degree is definitely something you can utilize to, one, if maybe you think you need a lot more background in research or psychology, or working in the mental health field, this degree is definitely one that you could utilize to gain those skills and knowledge. And now talking about specifically about what makes Palo Alto University's MS program unique is that it is completely online. So it does offer courses in the evening. And so this is definitely something ideal for someone that might be working full-time or part-time, someone that possibly does have a family or has a lot of obligations. This definitely might be something that is, more easily accessible to them. And the courses are synchronous. So just like we are today in this room, you will be connecting with others, live via Zoom, as well as the faculty members. And I did want to mention that even though it is completely online, the one exception is the PhD track. You do have to attend a 1-week intensive course during the final quarter of the second year. So that is the only small in-person requirement. And one other thing that is important is our program only admits once a year during the fall. So we are in a quarter system. So our fall starts sometime in September. So that is the only time we do admit students, and it is on a rolling basis. And I do want to note that this MS degree is not clinical. So that means that if you're hoping to be a therapist or have any track of a licensure, this degree would not be the right track. It would actually be our MA program, which is our clinical mental health counseling program. And that is more in line for someone that wants to be a licensed therapist, which I will explain further while we are going into the slides. And now to sort of explain a little further of how our online structure is set up at PAU is, like I mentioned, you will have synchronous courses. So each course has a weekly required online Zoom meeting where you will interact with your cohort as well as the faculty members. And they do a lot of things to keep you engaged. So it's not a typical sort of Zoom class. You'll have a lot of breakout rooms and a lot of time to collaborate with faculty members and your cohorts. And typically classes are about 90 minutes long. However, they could end up being longer depending on the course. And typically classes are between 5 and 8 p.m. during the weekdays. And one important thing to note is that it is Pacific Standard Time. So if you are located in Eastern Time in a different state, or if you are an international student, this is probably something you need to think about if, it might be much later where you're located and, to see if this program is for you. Since you will be taking around 2 to 3 classes per quarter, since we are a quarter system. And when it comes to the units, since I said this program is about a 2-year program, it ranges from 37.5 units to 47. So depending on which track you decide to choose, which I will explain what the tracks are shortly, that's how much the units will sort of range. And like I mentioned, when you are in those Zoom rooms, you will be with your cohort. So we use a cohort model, which means the students that you enter the program with, you will be taking the same classes as them, except when you start doing your tracks and taking different classes, that's when you'll sort of, be breaking off. And even though this is an online program, people still have to remember that this is a graduate level degree. So that means even if you do have a full-time or part-time job, other commitments, it is really important to sort of process if this program is for you. And so typically 1 unit equals 3 hours of time commitment in class and also outside. So that is also an important thing to note if you are considering our program. All right. See if our student is here. They're not here yet. Okay, so I will continue. And also I wanted to note that if you do see your state currently on this list, that means that because of federal laws, not because of PAU, you are not allowed to apply to our program, unfortunately, right now, until, they decide to sort of break that, take off that federal law depending on your state, but there's not really a time when we will know if it, like your state located on here is not going to be on the list or not. So if you are on this list and you're relocating some time of applying, or you just want to talk about your own, personal case, you can just reach out to me and we can discuss that further. All right, and I did want to pause before I get into the tracks if anyone had any questions before I continue.
Yeah, hi, Robin.
Oh, hi.
Hi. Okay, I am the parent of a student who wants to be a part of POW, and she was not able to join in, so I am like here. So I just thought you mentioned that the MS Psychology course is not for somebody who wants to, try for being a psychologist or a therapist rather. So
Yes.
then, what is the MS Psychology for? Then, what do these students aspire for?
So yes, so what I mentioned earlier is we do have a lot of students that maybe have been in their previous career for many decades, and they do want to break into the psychology field. They want to break into the tech and mental health field, as well as even being working in forensics, working in corrections, the legal system, even getting into research. So there are a lot of opportunities with this degree, even though that is not clinical, because there are a lot of career opportunities that, someone doesn't require a type of licensure when it comes to being a counselor or being a therapist. And also, if you are considering maybe being a clinical psychologist, this degree is definitely one that will give you that research and psychology background that you would need to be able to apply to either our doctoral degrees or another program's doctoral degrees. So this degree can be utilized even if it is non-licensing.
So, if someone has to apply for, say, PsyD, then is MS a prerequisite, or you can apply for PsyD directly after an undergrad?
Yes, ours specifically, you can definitely apply to either our PsyD or our PhD directly with just the bachelor's degree. However, there is recommended coursework that you'll need, which is having some type of research experience, also getting clinical experience, and also having some type of background in psychology, and also having a strong academic GPA as well. And so some students might not have that, and so this degree would definitely help them prepare.
So that means, suppose after undergrad, I mean, that student does not have the exposure of, as you said, uh, with actual dealing with people, probably, I mean, patients or whoever, clinical, then they go through the masters and then apply for the PsyD.
Yes, you could definitely do that. We do have a lot of students that have gotten their master's and have applied to the PsyD and the PhD. So it just varies. Some students might come straight out of undergrad, but some students decide to take that master's degree.
I mean, I'm just trying to understand what's the prerequisite for a PsyD. Other than the GPA, you need to have experience.
Yes, like I mentioned, you need to have some type of research experience as well as clinical experience. And if you haven't taken any psychology classes, we do have a recommended preparation that you should be taking. But yeah, I could definitely, if you want to learn more about the PsyD program, I could definitely discuss that with you.
Okay. and that could be done on email?
Yes, I can write down my email right here in the chat. Yes, so that is my email. Oops, nope, I sent it to the wrong person. 1 second. Yes, that is my email. So you could just message me directly and, we could talk about it.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. All right. So if no one else has any questions, I will continue.
Oh, I have a question
Yes.
on how this master program could help in the application to the PsyD program with the Stanford Consortium, and how would the process would look like if a student in the middle of the MS program applying to a PsyD versus transitioning into the PhD, what would be the difference?
Right. So for the master's, it does have a that PhD prep track that does prepare you to transition to the second year of our PhD program. If meeting the requirements, since it's not a guarantee. However, if we don't have a sort of like prep track for the PsyD program. So if you do the MS program, you would need to after apply to be a first year in the PsyD program. And also the other, I guess, difference is that you will be taking the first year's curriculum of the PhD in this MS program. However, for the PsyD program, none of the credits from the MS would transfer over to the PsyD. So that is definitely a bigger difference. However, I will say that the PsyD is it is very highly selective, and we do receive hundreds of applicants a year, so it is fairly competitive. So a lot of students, to be able to make sure their application is prepared as best as they can, especially if they don't have that experience, they might seek out doing a master's. Ours is one example, but you're welcome to go to any other master's program you believe might fit your needs. But a master's program might help them, be able to get that research, that clinical experience, and that background in psychology, and also might help them get letters of recommendations, because some students might be out of school for a long time and might need, letters of recommendation as well. So some faculty might be able to do that. But yeah, you would need to apply to it directly after this program is over.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you.
And Robin,
Yes.
so then what would you suggest? If someone is aspiring for the PsyD program, so should the student take the MS or the MA psychology?
Well, the MA, it definitely depends. So with the MA, it's kind of the same case where if you finish the MA program, none of the credits would transfer over to the PsyD. However, the MA is more counseling based, not psychology based. So the classes are different. However, if you maybe aren't sure if you want to pursue a PsyD program, the benefit of the MA program is that after you graduate, you can go to pursue, being a therapist or a counselor. So, and also with our PsyD program, with it being 5 years, that might not be something, after doing a 2.5, 3 year MA program, someone would want to consider, after doing that program. So the benefit is that, you could still pursue licensure and work with clients, even if you don't end up pursuing our PsyD or even a PhD. So it definitely depends what works best for you. This program does have that prep track for the PhD, so that might be a benefit for someone that wants to apply to the PhD. However, it doesn't mean that if you do the MA, you can't also apply to the PsyD after you graduate. You can, because it does give you that, mental health experience, as well as gives you clinical experience working with, couples, children, as well as adults. So that would give you that clinical experience as well. So it's definitely up to you which program you want, because I will explain later in the slides, but the MA is a lot longer of a program than the MS, and you are learning different things when it comes to psychology or counseling.
And so I don't know if that is part of this Zoom talk. Like the PsyD and the PhD, is it that the PsyD is more for counseling kind of career path, and PhD is more on the research part? Is that true?
Right, yes. So this for the MS program, this overview, yeah, I'm only mainly going to be talking about the master's program and a little bit about the PhD. If you did want to discuss the PsyD and the PhD more in depth, then yeah, that would definitely be a discussion. We would discuss one-on-one. Yeah, and I will also, there would definitely be more events as well that I'll be hosting that will talk more in depth about the PsyD and the PhD.
Got it. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. And so now I will talk about the MS program overview. So like I mentioned, there are tracks that you can pursue. And one of them is our terminal degree tracks, which these are 6 quarters and they range from 37.5 units to 39 units. And you can either decide to do the degree and just want to be a generalist. And so being a generalist, you'll just go do your 6 quarters and then you'll graduate. Or if you want to consider being in the forensic psychology track, you can. You'll be taking 2 classes for that as electives. And we also offer that tech and mental health track, which you'll be taking around 4 classes for that. And the other difference is our 7 quarters program, which is our PhD prep track. So that one is the first year of our PhD's curriculum, and it's split up into 2 years. And this does prepare you to transition into our PhD program or another PhD program as well. And to continue to talk about more about those tracks. So typically students don't make this choice in the beginning. You usually have about that first year of the program in the MS program to decide which track you want to pursue. So generalist track, like I mentioned, it's 37.5 units. It prepares students for a lot of different career opportunities. And the other great thing about PAU is that we offer it with concept courses. So concept is the continuing educational branch of the university. And typically, if you are not a student of PAU, these classes are worth hundreds of dollars. And they have many classes from, forensic, from tech, from a lot of our own faculty, as well as other faculty as well. And so this is free to all students. And a lot of students do decide to supplement their degree with these concept courses. And moving on to the forensic psychology track, like I mentioned, it does have 2 specialty courses, which is Forensic 1, as well as assessing and managing risks. And so this is a way for you to utilize working in a non-licensing role in the mental health field that has something to do with, the legal system. And moving on to the tech and mental health track, it has a little bit more units because it is 4 classes. And the benefit of the tech and mental health, specifically at PAU, is a lot of faculty members of ours have a background in tech. And so, for example, Dr. Bungay, he, works a lot with ChatGPT and AI. And so he's a really great resource, as well as even our provost, Dr. Erica Cameron, as well, has a background in tech. So we do have a lot of faculty members you can connect with to be able to, talk about your experience and maybe seek advice as well. And it also says that you can do an optional 3-month internship with the Palo Alto VA mobile app team. So there are a lot of virtual opportunities you can do in the MS program, even though it won't be in person. But if you are located in the area, you could definitely talk about maybe joining research labs, which it is possible either virtually, but if you are in the area, you can see about, maybe connecting in person about it. But there are a lot of opportunities you can do virtually. And lastly, that 47 units is our PhD prep track. So I do want to make sure to let everyone know that it is not guaranteed. So after that first year, you will have to, apply, also do a comprehensive exam, and then be invited to an interview. And you then would, if you do get accepted, you'll be conditionally admitted. And so during that second year, that's when you'll finish out your classes and the rest of the requirements. And then you'll also have to take some summer transition courses to be able to transition into as a second year of the program. And here is a map that I sort of want to, it kind of helps talk about and show you how the 2 years are kind of laid out. So here, that first year, you can see that everybody's going to be taking that same classes. And then during that summer of the first year, you see here that you'll need to do a comp exam if you are considering the PhD prep, and you'll also need to interview as well. And then moving on to the second year, we do recommend if you are considering the tech and mental health to start your electives during that spring of the first year, since there are a lot more classes. And if you want to finish in time with those 6 quarters, to start it earlier. And then that forensic psychology, you'll just take those 2 electives during that second year. And then the PhD prep, like I mentioned, you're conditionally admitted. You'll have that 1 in-person intensive week that you'll be here on campus. And then if you are doing that PhD prep, you'll have summer transitioning courses, and then you'll enter into the second year of the program. And I do want to note that the MS is online, but then when you do end up transitioning into the second year, it'll be completely in person.
Can I have a question here?
Yes.
Oh, sure. Yeah, on the PhD prep track, on average over the years, about how many percentage of students on this track are offered admission into the PhD program?
So it definitely varies. I think our last year, it's not the correct number. You could probably email me directly. I could give you the actual number, but I think it was around like 18 or 19 students applied, and I think 16 of them ended up getting admitted to the PhD for last year. But it definitely isn't guaranteed, and all the other years, you know, the number definitely varies. But when you're doing the MS program, you know, it does give you that experience that typically, if you are applying directly to the PhD program, you are getting in this master's program. And it does prepare you because the classes that you are taking are ones you would be taking in the PhD. So you know what to expect. And you also are working with the faculty members that are currently in the program with the PhD.
Got it. That's helpful. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. So yes, this is sort of the map of how it would look like. And then to talk about more of the careers, since this is a sort of non-licensing role, as you can see, the role of being a therapist or a counselor is not on here. However, there are a lot of other various jobs that you can do, which them are being in teaching and education. So working in higher education is definitely something you could do with this degree, as well as working in research. And the research can vary from, you know, doing like tech research, for example, as well as working in law enforcement or even corrections. So that's something with our forensic psychology that you can definitely pursue, as well as working in media, working in a various amount of different positions within healthcare, as well as UX research, and also working in nonprofits and government agencies. And so this is also these examples of previous alumni have went on to do as well. All right. So now I wanted to talk about, like I mentioned earlier, we have our MA in clinical mental health counseling, and we have what we're currently talking about, our master's in psychology. And I wanted to talk about sort of the comparison if you're maybe considering doing both and not sure which one you want to pursue. All right. Okay. So the biggest difference I will say is the fact that the MS is mainly focused on psychology. So, you know, you'll be taking your psychopathology classes, you'll be taking your research and method classes, and then the counseling, since it is a counseling degree, you'll be learning more about, you know, counseling techniques and sort of the legal ethics in counseling, and focused more on, you know, getting prepared for your practicum, since it is on that licensing degree, it'll, you know, you have to do some hours within the degree. And also they both are online. However, the MA offers that hybrid option. So you will be taking some classes online in the MA, and then some of them will be at our Mountain View campus if you decide to do that hybrid option. And the other biggest difference is the length of the program. So as you can tell, 94.5 quarter units to complete the entire MA program, which typically is around 9 quarters. However, if you want to take it slower, you definitely can, where you could take it up to 11 quarters. And our programs are between 37.5 to 47. So the length definitely varies from, you know, two years to the other program being 2.5 to 3 years. And also, since there are more units, the tuition differs. So this is sort of an estimate. However, this is not the actual full price of tuition. This is sort of just an estimate. And I will also have financial aids information if you want to, talk about, specifics about any scholarships, as well as, loan information or FAFSA and such like that. So here it's, around 60,000. And also on the master's in psychology side, depending on which track you choose, it could be between 37 and 46,000. And like I mentioned, the MS is only in the fall, but the MA does admit for the spring and the fall. So if you are looking to apply for the spring, the deadline did pass. So the next deadline would be for fall for the MA program. And also with the MS program, we have that prep track that is offered. However, the MA does not offer any direct track to any of our doctoral programs. And then the MA will lead you to a professional counseling licensure, and the MS will not. So those are sort of the biggest differences. All right, and I don't know if anyone has any questions. I'll sort of pause if anyone has any questions about that. All right, so I will keep.
Not about that in particular, but you mentioned the Mountain View campus. I was aware of the Alpine Road campus. What can you explain about the Mountain View campus?
Yes, so our Mountain View campus is sort of near like Castro Street in Mountain View, and pretty much it's our Gronowski center. So that's where, if you are in our PhD or even PsyD, that's where all the clients are. So that's where people will do their assessments, seeing clients, their supervisors in the doctoral programs, but we also do classes for the MA program. And also some of the doctoral students also take their classes there too. So yes, it's another part of PAU. It used to be, I believe it was in Los Altos, our previous campus, but we moved it to Mountain View. Right. Alrighty, so now I will talk about if you want to apply. And so if you are a non-psychology major wanting to apply, the requirement is that you have to complete these prerequisites. However, you don't need to complete these 4 prerequisites when you're applying. You can definitely complete them once you're admitted, but they do have to be completed before you start the fall quarter. So these can be done either in a community college, pretty much in an accredited institution. So that could be at a community college, in a university you're currently attending. I also have other options as well that we do have on our website of, examples of different course names it could go under, because maybe you have taken some of these courses, but they go under a different name. So that is definitely possible. And we could discuss that if, you have taken that course, and I could see if it's sort of equivalent. And also, there is no GRE required. And even if you do submit your GRE to us, we will not review that. And the recommended GPA is a 3.3. However, even if you do have less than a 3.3, we still will review your application, since we do a holistic view of all your application materials. So don't be afraid to apply even if it is under a 3.3. And so now talking about what exactly you need to prepare to be able to apply. And the application materials will all be through and submitted through SciCast. So SciCast is a centralized application system that we use, and whatever you submit on there, and SciCast will release that information to us. So this is important to note, because nothing will be sent to Palo Alto University directly. So anything that I list will all be uploaded through that portal. And so typically the fee is around $80 for the application. And if you are wanting to know more about a fee waiver, you have to apply through the SciCast. And so the application materials include a resume or a CV, and also a personal statement. And this goes much more in detail either on our website, or once you start your application on SciCast and you add the programs that you want, it will be on program materials and it'll explain more in detail, like the prompt and everything that you could definitely add on your resume, your personal statement, more in detail. But the personal statement is something where we want to get to know you. And so the committee wants to know, why do you want to pursue a master's in psychology? And specifically, what sort of experiences and your background has led you to be prepared to do this degree, as well as sort of like your goals and aspirations with this degree as well, and what you'll do with it. And also submitting all your official transcripts and evaluations. So if you attended multiple community colleges, you would need to submit those. So even if you did another master's degree program, we'll also need those as well. And those will be submitted through SciCast and not Palo Alto University. And lastly, we require 3 evaluations. So these letters of recommenders will be either academic or professional references. So these will be your professors, your supervisors, volunteer coordinators, your managers, anyone that's known you in a professional setting that could speak on, about your abilities. And ones that would not be appropriate to use are informal mentors, psychiatrists, your friends and family, anything like that would not be appropriate to be used. All right, and here is the deadline. So you do have a few months away before it is due. So it's August 4th. And I do want to note that the application, if you are applying that last day, the time to apply by is 11:59 Eastern time. However, here in Pacific Standard Time, it's 8:59. So if you are applying, make sure in the area you submit it by 8:59. However, I highly encourage everyone to apply as early as you can, because sometimes SciCast might, say it's undelivered or have certain issues, especially when you are on SciCast. Even though you submit your transcripts, you have to input all the classes you've taken. And so sometimes if you use their transcript service to do it for you, it might take several weeks for that. So making sure you plan ahead. All right, and then here is my contact information, as well as the Office of Financial Aid. And then lastly, if you did decide that maybe the Master's in Clinical Mental Health Counseling is maybe the possible route for me and you want to discuss it further, this is the information of Tanya Romero, which she is the rep of the program. So that's her email if you want to go ahead and, send her an email about it. So you can set up a meeting with her. So